Well, hello everyone and welcome back. I've just gotten the BT-50 home, so I thought I might as well compare it and do a little bit of a review of it against the Y62. Now obviously they're very different classes of vehicles, obviously one being a wagon and one being a ute, so there is quite a few differences. However, I think it's a good point to discuss the differences between the ute and the wagon, and especially nowadays since everything's really come a long way. So this is it. It's a 2025 BT-50 GT spec. So there was a few changes that were made in 2025 for the BT-50. Now it has been the D-Max platform for quite some time now, a few years. Obviously the BT-50 hasn't really had a fantastic rap in earlier years. It hasn't really been its own thing for quite some time. I suppose the BT-50 sort of developed from the Mazda Bravo. Now, the BT-50's been quite a few things over the years. It's been a Ranger, and now it's obviously been the D-Max. The reason I went with the BT-50 over the D-Max that I originally did want was just the fact of the value for money that you get from this car. A car here for what I paid. Luckily, I found a dealer who was willing to negotiate some pricing, and I got a pretty good deal. Considering this is one down from the top spec, like I mentioned in my previous video, I didn't want the top spec because the interior on the top spec just looks hideous in my opinion, and wasn't something that I wanted to sit in every day. The GT still offers all the same things pretty much as what the SP, the top spec model, does offer, but it just doesn't have that horrible interior and is a bit cheaper as well. Now this was a dealer demo. It had 3,000 Ks on it when I picked it up. Honestly, over the trip from Adelaide to here, it's been a faultless ute so far. Everything's worked as it's supposed to. It drove over here, no dramas at all, as you would expect. Now this is obviously, like I said, based on the D-Max platform. So Isuzu and D-Max have been around for quite some time and they are known for their reliability. Now these utes do have a few issues, but by 2025 I think they've got the majority of them sorted out. The sort of major issue is bump steer issues. Isuzu has apparently changed the steering knuckles on these, which is causing the issue, and they've also has released different specs for the wheel alignment and the steering specifications. And we've managed to pick up a spider. I might actually get that off because I don't want any free riders here. Now I wasn't 100% sold on the Mazda. I do like the styling on it. The lights on this car are really aggressive looking. The bonnet looks quite nice, and you can definitely see the D-Max still within the platform, just obviously it's been touched a little bit by Mazda. Now something they've done is put these massive big badges, Mazda badges on the car, which I'm not really a fan of, this big massive Mazda badge smack bang there in the middle of the grille, but anyway. We've got to be bold and stand out, I suppose. The grille design has changed a bit now. Mazda is seemingly going to this way with a lot of their cars. A lot of their CX range has this sort of style of grille and these style of lights. These lights are actually identical to my wife's CX-8. However, they're just obviously built a bit differently to fit into the BT-50's front end. However, the lights are exactly the same, except one thing they didn't include is the actual headlight globes will move as you move the steering wheel, which is a handy feature when you're going around corners to obviously see around corners a bit better. One thing you might notice as well, as there is a LED light here, and then for our actual indicator, it is a bulb, which is a bit weird and isn't like that on the CX-8. But anyway, apart from that, the lights are pretty much the same. So we've got our fog lights down here. We also actually have some active cooling, maybe, I don't know. they've got these big holes in the grille that actually do go through the other side into here, which may help to, I don't know, cool down the brakes maybe, which if that is what they are designed for, it's not really going to do that very well because all the air is just going to be straight onto the tyre and sort of go past the tyre anyway. If they really wanted to do that, they should have ducted it a bit better. Now, what are my initial thoughts on the BT-50? Well, like I said, there is a lot here for the money, and I think it's a really great value ute, especially today in the ute market where isn't really a clear winner when it comes to buying a ute. I would say that the Ranger is probably, the new Ranger is probably one of the better utes out there. It's just a shame that they have so many issues with their new engines. One of the things you should be looking at when you are buying a new car is the reliability, of course. And with this platform, the D-Max and BT-50, they are known for their reliability. The new 4JJ3 is fantastic. The driveline is really good. And something that really surprised me is the tail shaft in this car is humongous. I was expecting some dainty little thing since it's, you know, a small ute and, you know, it's not particularly heavy and it's not generating a heap of power. The 3.2 litre 4JJ3 is very under stressed, and when I had a look under it yesterday and seen the size of the tail shaft, I was amazed. If you've ever looked under your Y62 and you've seen the tail shaft in that, well, think that, but a little bit bigger. I think it is actually bigger than what is in the Y62. I'm not sure if you can actually see it under there. Oh yes, you should be able to. It's huge. I was like, why? That just seems very overkill, which is sort of the Isuzu theme. Only real issue here is going to be the transmission and the diffs. Unfortunately, the diffs aren't renowned for being the strongest things out there, but I mean, you look after them and you know, be smart and they will be okay. Now, on my drive back home, it's a ute, right? So it's obviously not going to be the most comfortable ride in the world, especially with nothing in the tray. So it was a bit rough, was a bit bouncy, and especially the roads from, you know, South Australia to Victoria, they are pretty rough. And I will admit I did have a pretty sore back afterwards. Not that that's something out of the ordinary for me, as I do have multiple back injuries. They definitely were exacerbated by the ride quality in the BT. So one of the first things I will be doing is changing up the suspension in this thing to something that is quite a bit nicer. Probably going to go for some Radflow coilovers, and that should hopefully make this thing ride a bit nicer, especially when the tub comes off and the terrain canopy goes on. So really, the ride is my only gripe with this thing, and it is to be expected with a ute. They don't ride the best. You know, it wasn't too bad. I think there is probably worse out there. That was sort of really my only gripe with driving it. It drives really nice, it steers well, it feels pretty well planted on the road. It's not like the Patrol. The Patrol was very well sorted out on the road, and you could, you know, throw it into corners and it would happily keep coming back for more. The HBMC in that is quite well sorted out and is quite nice on the road, I must admit. Going back to a conventional sort of suspension setup, you can definitely notice a difference. But in saying that, it is quite good. And I mean, up front here, we do have quite a thick sway bar, and our suspension components aren't too bad. They're obviously, you know, a lot smaller than what we're used to seeing on the big Y62. However, it's not too bad. Stopping power on this is quite good too. It brakes fine, yeah, no dramas with braking. A few things that a few people have said is there is a bit of lag when it comes to actually the car moving. So if you take off from a set of traffic lights and you apply just a constant throttle position, car will, get up to road speed, no dramas at all. But if you do plant your foot down, it does take a little bit for it to actually wake up and get going. And I think that's probably a little bit of transmission torque protection sort of a thing, where it's not going to give you the full amount of torque straight away. And I found if you're sort of rolling and then you put your foot down, it's a little bit better, but yeah, I did definitely notice that. So moving into the engine bay, there is actually quite a lot of room in here. The little 3 litre 4J isn't a massive engine, so there is quite a bit of room in here, which is quite good, and plenty of space to get to things, which is good. Now obviously it's a little bit weird to look at because we're so used to seeing everything so big and cramped and big components. Like this is just a tiny little radiator, tiny little airbox. And one thing I don't like, and obviously it's just a cost saving thing, is the fact that all our intake hoses are hoses. They're not actually plastic. Even would have been fine. These will be upgraded. Yeah, so here's our hot side intercooler pipe, the orange one, which is this silicone hose. It is a bit more rigid than what the cold side is. This is really soft, and under acceleration this will swell out and you'll actually lose boost from this style. So it was pretty silly of Isuzu to do this, but anyway, there is plenty of aftermarket options, of course. One thing I actually really like is down in there, there's actually a hole pre-made for your snorkel. How good's that? So I've already ordered quite a few bits and a snorkel is one of them. So we've already got our hole there for our snorkel to go straight in to our airbox, which is nice. So it'll come around here, come in here. We've obviously got this bit of a scoop here, which a lot of stock vehicles will have. On longer drives, I would definitely say that the Patrol is a lot more comfortable. If I was going to go on a long drive, I'd rather be in a Patrol than this. At the moment though, it'll be better once I get it all kitted out and modded how I like. Obviously the nature of the beast is utes aren't as comfortable as a nice plush luxury wagon. However, it's quite a nice package under here, and like I said, the 4J is great. One thing I also don't like is the windscreen wipers and the sprayers for the windscreen. They're actually built in to the windscreen wipers themselves, and it doesn't do like the bottom half of the windscreen. It'll only do the top half, and it doesn't really get any of the bugs and crap off very well at all. So that was pretty stupid of them. I don't know what they were thinking. Yes, it makes the bonnet nice and clean and smooth and there's nothing on it. However, in this plenum cover here, you could have added some sprayers into that and then had that spray up onto the windscreen. But they've done a bit of a Mercedes thing and put the sprayers in the windscreen wipers. Now, being a 2025 model, this is obviously packed with safety features and all the rest of that bloody crap, driver assistance stuff that will drive you insane. The front sensors on this thing are very touchy. Well, all the sensors on this thing are very touchy. Just driving through some grass like this just before, and it was beeping and going off and telling me that there was stuff in front of me, which was, as you can see, not very tall grass at all, and would have driven it over it, no problems at all. It also tells me to brake all the time. Well, not all the time, but more often than not. I've had it happen quite a few times now already. I've only had this thing for 2 days, telling me to brake for things that I don't even need to brake for. I was going down in a bit of a slipway in a big dip, and when I got to the bottom of it, it was telling me brake, flashing lights and carrying on when there was nothing in front of me. There was no need to brake, but yet it was very adamant that I needed to stop. Moving into the interior is quite nice. It is a nice place to be in, and again, one of the reasons I went with the Mazda was it's a little bit nicer than what the D-Max is. Fairly plain Jane leather seats with good bolstering. Listen, pay attention. Good bolstering in the seats here. You might notice that they're not particularly big, which is good because I don't really have a large frame, which means that I actually feel supported within the seats. Now obviously 2025, we're going to be expecting quite a bit of technology within the car. That is what we get. We got ourselves a 9-inch infotainment system here with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. We also have a digital dash, well the center of it is anyway, but the surrounds for your tacho and also your fuel and engine temp are not digital, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me. For some people it was a bit of a letdown for them. However, it doesn't really bother me that much. I sort of prefer it this way anyway. I think it's quite a good look. All the needles and the numbers and I suppose the decals there are actually quite nice, and I don't mind the look of them. Now down here we have our gear selector. We've got our buttons and bits and pieces. Obviously got a diff lock button, rough terrain mode, got a hill descent, and a button to turn off the parking sensors, as well as our heated seat controls. 2 levels of heated seat controls, which were quite nice actually on the trip over. They did help soothe my aching spine from all the bouncing, which was good. Now obviously it's going to take me a little bit of getting used to because this isn't a large space to be in like the Patrol. The Patrol was very wide and obviously gave us a lot of space in here, but for the most part it is quite nice. It is quite spacious really for a ute. I don't have any room issues here. I still need to muck around a little bit with my seat positioning and trying to get that sorted out. One thing also, Mazda and, well, I suppose Isuzu really actually listens to their customers. A lot of people didn't like piano black on this part of the center console here because piano black material, whilst it is very nice, does scratch quite easily. So they've gone to this sort of a matte, sort of satin, sort of a grey black material on this, which is good because this is the part where you're going to be sliding stuff down into the center little cubby bit there, and whilst this still will get scratched, it won't be as bad. Leather accents on the center console surrounds, which is nice. Piano black on these parts of the doors. It is nice to still see the piano black because I do like it. It is nice. It is a nice material, and I do think it looks quite good in a car. Down here we've got a couple of other little things. Light control there for your dash. We've also got our traction control, and that other button there on the left is actually a button which apparently when you put stuff into the tub, it will tell the TPMS not to stress. The tires aren't actually low. Steering wheel is very Mazda. This nice leather feeling on the actual wheel itself, which is quite nice. It's in pretty much every Mazda car that I've ever been in, and I like it. It seems to be quite hard wearing, and it's a nice feel when you are driving the car. We've obviously got our buttons here for our cruise control. These buttons here control our digital dash, and we've got some volume and phone controls on the left hand side here. Now we've got our 4-drive selector here. You can go into 4 high below 100 k's whilst you are on the move, which is good. However, unlike the Patrol, you can't actually be in 4 high if you are on the road. Obviously with the Patrol, it will switch between 2 high and 4 high depending on its conditions and whether or not it senses slip. This won't do that. It's a lot more basic than that sort of thing. The four-wheel drive system in the BT-50 isn't anything crazy, nor is it in the D-Max. But it does get the job done, and this rough terrain mode seems to be a real little cheat code for off-road driving. I don't really understand what it does. I think it just sort of lets the car figure out what it needs to do, rather than having you actually do some of the inputs and controls and stuff for the car. But it seems to do a really good job. Up here we've got our sunglass holder, we've got our lights, more lights in the roof, and we also have speakers in the roof as well, and a bit of storage over here, which is nice. We've got some top storage here in the dash, which is good because your glove box, once it has the manual in it, is full. So actually pretty useless. In the doors we have nice big storage for your water bottles and other little bits and pieces. You also have some storage in the arm rest of the doors. Seats are quite comfortable. Only the driver's side has electric controls. I don't think the passenger side does. So bit of a weird one, bit of a shame, but anyway, it is what it is. This gear selector I really do like the look of. I think it looks great. And an actual handbrake. Moving into the back of the car, my son has already dirtied my seats, which is very great. I do have floor mats coming, thank God, because this carpet seems to really attract the dirt. Again, nothing too crazy in the doors there. And there is adequate space in the back. Obviously, Ute, not really renowned for having a heap of space, however, they're not too terrible. And I can sit back here quite comfortably with no issues, even at the with the seat in my driving position. So we've got a USB-C in the back. Geez, they didn't really clean this car very well. With some aircon controls and a little storage spot there for really nothing. Obviously there is a hook on the back of the passenger's seat. I don't really know what you're going to put there. So the back of the car, it's really nothing flash. There's not really anything crazy going on in there. It is pretty boring, but that's okay. Oh yes, listen to the diesel purr. People did complain that the 4J is a bit loud and rattly. It's really not. It's a diesel engine, really not that bad, I don't think. So I hope you've enjoyed a bit of a walk around and a view inside the 2025 BT-50. There will be plenty of modifications along the way, as there always is. If there is interest for it, I will film the modding adventure of this car. However, I'm not really planning on doing anything at this stage. Maybe at the end, once all things are done, or might do a few updates throughout the journey, just depending on how it goes. But anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed a bit of a look around the BT-50. Food for thought anyway, for people who might want to get out of the Y62. I've actually spoken to quite a few people, and yeah, they are looking at getting out of their Y62s, which is completely fair enough. If it doesn't fit your purpose anymore, what's the point in keeping it? As always, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.